There's a problem millions of people deal with that almost nobody talks about. You sit down on the toilet and what's coming out feels way too big. It's hard, it's wide, it hurts, and you find yourself straining for minutes just to pass a single piece. Some people start sweating. Some people dread going to the bathroom altogether, and almost nobody brings it up because it's embarrassing. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone, and there's nothing wrong with you. Large, hard stools are one of the most common digestive complaints out there, and the good news is that for most people, it's completely fixable, often within a week or two. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what's actually happening inside your body, a simple 3-part protocol that works, and the warning signs that mean it's time to see someone. Let's start with the mechanism, because once you understand why this is happening, the solution makes a lot more sense. Your colon has one main job at the end of digestion: pull water out of what you ate and form it into stool. That's normal, but here's the catch. The longer that stool sits in your colon, the more water gets reabsorbed back into your body. Sit time goes up, water content goes down, and what should be soft and easy to pass turns into something dense, dry, and wide. By the time it finally moves, it can be wider than your anal canal is designed to comfortably stretch around. That's where the pain, the straining, and the tearing come from. It's not weakness, it's physics. When this goes on long enough, stool can actually get stuck. The medical term for that is fecal impaction. It's a hardened mass of stool that the body simply cannot pass on its own, and in serious cases, it has to be broken up and removed by a healthcare professional. This problem shows up most often in older adults, in people eating low-fiber diets, in people who don't drink enough water, and in anyone who has a habit of ignoring the urge to go. Now, the natural instinct when stool won't pass is to push harder. More force, more effort, hold your breath, and bear down. I want you to hear me clearly. That is the worst thing you can do. Excessive straining is what causes hemorrhoids. It's what causes anal fissures, those small, painful tears that can bleed for weeks. And in some people, it triggers something called paradoxical anal contraction. This is where the muscles that are supposed to relax during a bowel movement actually tighten up instead. So you're sitting there pushing as hard as you can, and your body is literally working against you. The harder you push, the more it clamps down. That's why some people sit on the toilet for 10, 15, 20 minutes and nothing happens. It's not a willpower problem. It's a mechanical problem, and brute force only makes it worse. The fix has to come from somewhere else. Before we get into what you can do at home, there's an important step that gets skipped way too often: actually finding out what's going on. If you've been dealing with chronic constipation, hard stools that won't budge, or any of the warning signs I'll cover at the end of this video, the smart move is to get evaluated. There are a handful of tests that can give a clear picture of what's happening. A colonoscopy is the most common one. It rules out structural issues like polyps, strictures, inflammation, or anything else physically blocking or narrowing the colon. Imaging studies like a CT scan or an abdominal ultrasound can spot problems that don't show up otherwise. A barium enema is an older test, but it's still useful for chronic constipation because it shows how the colon is actually shaped and moving. And then there's anorectal manometry, which measures the pressure and coordination of the muscles down at the exit. That's the test that catches paradoxical contraction. You don't need every test. But if your symptoms are persistent or severe, getting evaluated isn't paranoia. It's the responsible first step before relying on supplements alone. Now, before we get into the protocol, I want to flag something important. There's a discovery getting a lot of attention right now that goes against almost everything you've been told about constipation. It's an 8,000-year-old ingredient used by more than 3 billion people across history that some are now calling an underwater gut superfood. What's wild about it is this. People are using just 1 pinch of it before meals and reporting that they're emptying their bowels twice as fast, even on days they eat almost no fiber at all. It defies common sense, but the mechanism behind it is actually well documented, and it targets the toxic buildup that can sit in the colon for years. If you want to see exactly how it works and why it's helping people fully reset their digestion in a matter of days, without restrictive diets, expensive probiotics, or medications, point your phone's camera at the QR code on the screen right now. It'll take you straight to the full breakdown. I've also pinned the link at the very top of the comments, so if you're watching on a TV or you'd rather check it later, just tap the pinned comment below. Take 30 seconds, save the link, and come right back, because what I'm about to share next pairs perfectly with it. Okay, with that saved, let's get into the heart of the video. For the vast majority of people dealing with large, hard stools, the fix comes down to three foundational things working together: water, fiber, and magnesium. Let's go through each one. Pillar 1, hydration. The simplest rule you'll ever hear about constipation is this: hard stool equals stool without enough water. That's it. If your stool is dry and dense, the number one reason is that there isn't enough water in your colon to soften it. Here's the formula. Aim for about 35 milliliters of water per kilogram of body weight per day. For most adults, that works out to roughly 2 to 2.5 liters daily, or in American terms, about 70 to 85 ounces. That's somewhere around half a gallon. And one important note, coffee, soda, and alcohol don't count toward that total. They're actually mild diuretics, which means they pull water out of your body. Spread your water intake across the whole day rather than chugging it all at once. Steady sips work better than big gulps. Pillar 2, psyllium husk. Psyllium is a soluble fiber that comes from a plant seed, and it works through a really elegant mechanism. When it hits water in your gut, it absorbs that water and forms a soft gel. That gel does two things at once. It bulks up your stool, which signals your colon to move things along, and it keeps the stool soft and slippery so it passes easily. The dose to aim for is 1 to 3 grams with lunch or with dinner or both. Mix it into a full glass of water and drink it down. Here's a bonus. If you're also working on weight management, take your psyllium about 30 minutes before a meal. That gel forms in your stomach and creates a real feeling of fullness, so you naturally eat less. 2 benefits from one supplement. One critical caveat though, always take psyllium with plenty of water. If you take it dry or with too little fluid, it can actually make constipation worse. The water is not optional. Pillar 3, chelated magnesium. This is the most powerful lever of the three. Magnesium does two things in your gut. It pulls water into the colon, which softens stool directly, and it relaxes the smooth muscle of the intestinal wall, which improves motility. The dose to start with is 350 milligrams of chelated magnesium, taken once a day. If after several days you're not getting the results you want, move up to twice a day. If still not enough, 3 times a day. Everyone has a personal threshold, and the goal is to find the dose that produces a soft, complete bowel movement without tipping over into diarrhea. Quick safety note: if you have kidney disease, are pregnant, or take prescription medications, check with a clinician before starting magnesium. So how do you know the protocol is actually working? Within 1 to 2 weeks of consistent hydration, daily psyllium, and the right dose of chelated magnesium, here's what most people start to experience: a predictable daily bowel movement, stool that's soft, formed, and passes without straining, a genuine sense of complete emptying when you're done, instead of that nagging feeling that something's still in there. And maybe the biggest shift of all, no more dread when you walk into the bathroom. I want you to notice something here. The goal isn't necessarily going more often. The goal is going easily and completely. That's the real marker of a healthy gut, and that's what this protocol is designed to deliver. Before we wrap up, there are some warning signs that should never be managed at home with supplements. If any of these apply to you, skip the protocol and get evaluated. Blood in the stool or on the toilet paper that doesn't go away after a few days. A sudden, unexplained change in your bowel habits that lasts more than a few weeks. Severe abdominal pain, unintended weight loss, the inability to pass stool or gas at all, which can signal an obstruction, and a hard, palpable mass that won't move no matter what you do. Any of these warrant a real evaluation, not more supplements. Let's bring it home. 3 pillars: water, psyllium, and chelated magnesium. That's the framework. Hydrate to the formula, add psyllium with your meals, and titrate your magnesium until you find your dose. This is the kind of information that should be common knowledge, but it isn't, because nobody wants to talk about what happens in the bathroom. Start with hydration tonight. Add the other 2 this week. For most people, the change shows up within days, and the bathroom stops being a place of dread.